In the history of Counter-Strike, there have been many different and interesting records set, and many of them have remained unbroken for a very long time. Today we're gonna reminisce about them together. But before we get into the video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. So let's get started. The first record we're gonna talk about happened in 2017 at ESL 1 in New York, the highest rating for an entire tournament. Niko set this record with a rating of 1.7 across 7 maps. This was an absolute record in CS, one that no one has come close to. But today there's a young monster from whom such numbers aren't extraordinary. That's Donk, and an IEM Katowice this year he matched that 1.7 rating across 11 maps. This is the best record in CS2 so far, and maybe Donk will be the one to break this record in the future. Although it's worth noting he played a lot of more maps, so in my opinion he surpassed Niko record despite the same rating. A lot of us play FACEIT and often run into lose streaks. Losing 4 games and dropping 100 elo is rough, but it happens. But there are lose streaks that hit harder, like when you're losing professional matches. For this, there is a record holder for the longest losing streak in official matches on HLTV. This record is held by the Turkish academy team, Eternal Fire. These young Turks participated in a tournament for academics and ended up being the weakest, clearly unprepared for the competition. They lost 17 matches in a row over 2 seasons of We Play League, which means half a year without a win. Naturally, this brings us to the record for the longest winning streak. If you're an old school fan, you should remember this one. Yep, it's NiP. In 2012, when CS first came out, they were the strongest team in the world. They set this unbelievable record of winning 87 maps in a row. They would just show up at the tournament with all the maps and take home the trophy. No team has come even close to this record in 12 years. Even Prime Astralis, when they were winning major after major, couldn't get to even 40 consecutive wins. Now let's talk about some of the smaller records. They might not be as significant, but they are still unbroken, so they're not that easy to replicate. One of these records belonged to flamie, who many have forgotten about, and newer players might not even know who he is. But he left his mark in history. His record is making 2 aces in pistol rounds on a single map. Speaking of aces, we have another record for most aces in a single tournament. In CS, this record belongs to Simple. He managed to get 4 aces. It might not seem like a big number, but at the professional level, it's an unbroken record. Though no one has beaten it, it has been tied, just like with Niko and Donk. In CS2, MD matched this record at the North American tournament. This young Guatemalan player was recently signed by G2. Now it's time for the longest maps played in a tournament. There have been a few records here, so let's start with CS. The longest map was lasted a whopping 88 rounds. This was in 2015 at ESL UK with 2 unknown teams, Xenex and Excel, and Xenex won with a score 46-42. Next we have majors, where overtime rounds were not uncommon, 60 rounds. That's how long it took for the Astralis to lose a match to Crazy. The final score was 31-29. In CS2, these records haven't been broken yet, but they've been tied. It took 60 rounds for Aurora to defeat Paravision in an online ESL tournament. And we will wrap this up with the longest map played at a LAN tournament in CS2. This happened at an Asian tournament when the 2 low faced Mongolis. It took Mongolis pretty much 54 rounds to finish the match in their favor with a score of 28-26. All of this is pretty cool, but there is another side to records. They are the ones nobody wants to break or even try to repeat. This record is for the lowest rating in a professional match, and it belongs to the German player Kito. In this match, he had a score of 0.17 with 22 ADR, and he ended up with a 0.04 rating on that map. Now we have a record set during the COVID-19 outbreak, and if it weren't for the pandemic, this record wouldn't have been possible, making it unique and practically unbeatable. In 2021, Navi won all the LAN tournaments. Imagine that, every LAN tournament a year. It sounds incredible, but because of COVID, there were barely any tournaments, and Navi only needed a few trophies at the end of the year to set this record. One of these tournaments, by the way, was the Major. Speaking of that Major, Navi set another amazing record. They were in top form then. The record is that Navi won the major without losing a single map. Prime Navis just steamrolled over all their opponents. Only G2 came close to taking a map from them, but we all remember how niko missed a shot in the back with the deagle, which allowed Navi to cement their place in history as the only team to win a major without dropping a single map. And now we move on to the most important thing, statistics. The player with the best stats and who takes the tournament gets the MVP medal. Earning the title of the most valuable player of a tournament is not easy feat, especially with the competition at the professional level. But there are players of a galactic scale, like Simple. He holds 2 records. The first one is for the most MVPs in career, he has 21. The closest to him is Davis with 19, and the third place is zywoo with 13, which is almost half of the Simple's count. This gap could close, as zywoo is still actively playing and doesn't plan to retire anytime soon, which can be said for Simple, who has been inactive for over half a year. The second record he holds is for the most MVPs in a year. He won 8 in just 1 year. Some players can achieve that many in their entire careers, but Simple did it in just 1. Long matches also happen in the arena. FaZe and Navis faced off in the finals of a tournament, is best of a 5 match. Both teams were in incredible form and they battled hard, playing all 5 maps totaling 148 rounds, on average of 29 rounds per map. The match lasted 8 hours. I don't understand how they could stay focused and keep playing under the roar of the arena for that long. In CS2, this record will be very hard to beat due to the new round system. Many players, when they reach Tier 1, stay there for years, playing dozens if not hundreds of tournaments and thousands of maps. And in this regard, we have an incredible record. It was set by the legendary Polish player Snacks. In his career, he has played over 2,400 maps at the professional level. And as you know, he recently joined G2, so this number will keep growing. Do you think he can reach 3,000 maps? When there's esports, there are $1 million prizes, and players in famous teams can earn a substantial amount over their careers, enough for every comfortable retirement. For me, the player who earned the most prize money was quite surprising. The player is dupreeh. Throughout his career, he has earned $2.2 million in prize money, not counting his salary, bonuses, and major stickers. dupreeh has a few more records. He's the only player who hasn't missed a single major in the history of CS. For 11 years, he has been at the top level, competing in the main tournaments of the game every year. Furthermore, at the majors, he set another record, 5 major wins in his career. In CS, no one will break this record, but their new generation in CS2 has all the chances. And there is one more amazing record for the dupreeh managed to set. 32 trophies in his career. If you count how many years he'd been on the pro scene, that's roughly 3 trophies per year consistently. Incredible stats earned by the legend dupreeh. Moving away from Danish records and back to Poland, we have a record from Taz set recently with G2. He became the oldest player to complete in major LAN tournaments in CS history. At 38 years old, he played with the best of 3 match and even showcased some impressive highlights. His last big LAN was way back in 2018 with the Virtus Pro before he retired to a Tier 3 level. But this opportunity to play a full game allowed him to leave such a mark in CS history. Next we have another CS legend, Crims. He holds 2 records. The first is the time spent with one team. He's been with Netric for 10 years and will likely finish his career there in a few years or become a captain or chef. Anything to stay with the organization. His second record is in-game. He managed to get 44 frags in regulation time on a single map, 44 kills in 30 rounds. That's what a game of a lifetime looks like. This record will likely never be broken again due to the new round system. Getting 44 frags in 24 rounds seems almost impossible. And finally, a record very relatable to us. The number of hours played in CS among pro players. You might think the top spot goes to Simple, monesy or zywoo, but that's not the case. I was shocked to see Centaurus at the top with 24,000 hours played. These were the records we covered today. Leave a comment about which records you found memorable or liked, and feel free to share your personal records too. That's all from me now. See you soon in the next video. Bye bye!